So a very serious incident happened yesterday in City West. A 10-year-old child was sexually assaulted outside an iPass centre in City West in Dublin. Now, before we go any further, this is a very serious and sensitive subject, so please keep that in mind, please, because it is very serious and it's very sensitive, and we do have to have a discussion about this as a society, as a country too, because there's many failures, and the state too bears responsibility for this, and I get into why the state bears responsibility. But ultimate responsibility is to this man. We don't know his name, we don't know where he's from. He's from some part of Africa. He was an asylum seeker who was told to leave back in March. He's still here. He shouldn't. He should never have been allowed to stay as long as he was, and we see the results, unfortunately, of that. This fellow should never have been allowed to be let in this state. He should have been sent home in March. And that's to do with the deportation system and also tusla. But just bear in mind, as I said in the beginning there was a child of 10 years old involved in this. And I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine the pain that child's going through. I can't even imagine the mental torture that poor child's going to be for the rest of her life. For the rest of her life. She's only 10 years old. She, not even the human mind can comprehend the mental torture that man has caused to this child, not even to this child, to her family, to her friends. It's unexcusable, it's unforgivable that an individual such as this man exists in modern society. That's evil. That's the word to describe. There's no other word to describe than it's evil. Evil to the core, that they do something to an innocent child. An innocent child that done nothing to no one. That this would happen. And it's unforgivable. It's unforgivable, and it's no point saying lessons needs to be learned. What Simon Howard said today. People need to go to prison. People over in the government departments, people over tusla should be going to prison at the very least, if not lose their jobs, because this is unacceptable. And there's two aspects to this case. And I remember, again, this is very sensitive, and I understand, and I'm trying to handle it with the most sensitive error, but we do have to discuss. This is very serious issues. These are very, very serious, and have been talked about for years, and nothing has ever been done. So the talk needs to stop and action needs to happen. What I mean to say, but we have to discuss it first of all for the action to happen, and that's to do first of all with the deportation systems in this country. As we know, and I've said it many times, I'm blue in the face saying it, that half of the deportations orders that are given by judges in this country are not followed and not enforced. Some of them are given voluntary. You have to leave the state voluntary, but they're never checked to see that they leave the state. This person that was involved, this man, this evil man that done this to this innocent child, was given a deportation order back in March of this year. And he's still here. He's still in this state. Who knows what the full story is? That we still haven't got the full story. We know that's confirmed by the state, that this person came 6 years ago to this country seeking asylum. He looked for asylum last year in 2024 and it was denied it by the state, which means he didn't have grounds to be here. Whatever the reason was, we don't know. Did he have a criminal record? What was the story? We could speculate till the cows come home. But we wait and see what the state says in terms of that. But he was denied it anyway. He wasn't supposed to be here. He had no grounds to be here. Should have been deported back in March. So that's just goes to show the deportation system. It's a joke in this country. When somebody is given a deportation, it should be forced deportation. As simple as that. There's no such thing as voluntary or go on your own accord. You're brought by An Garda Síochána, you're put on the plane, and you're told to never come back to this country, never to show your face here again. And that's the way it should be. In any sane country, that's what it would be. That the Gardaí would put you on a plane, physically put you on a plane, and make sure you go on that plane and never come back. And that's the only way to do it. And I know it's harsh, but it has to be harsh. These incidents happen because countries are too soft on people that commit crimes. And then the other thing is to do with tusla, and this is the main, and I've said it even a few days ago about tusla. Tusla is the Child and Family Protection Agency. And we have seen this, and we've seen this time and time again. Children have gone missing in state care, have just disappeared. Tusla doesn't know where they are. Still to this day, there's children that they don't know where they've gone. And this is unacceptable. In the state, owned by the state, run by the state, paid for by the Irish taxpayer, that they can't tell us where these children have gone, some of these children. And this child, particularly this young girl, was in the care of tusla since February of this year. And she was on a trip, I think, to what tusla said. Absconded is the word they use. Like a 10-year-old, using the word absconded with a 10-year-old. Now, this child did have behavioural probably issues, etc. But the tusla pretty much have said that she absconded, which is pretty much what you would say to a prisoner. It's insane. And first of all, tusla, this is a 10-year-old child. What in the name of God are these people in tusla doing? they're not watching this child, they're not looking out, especially with behavioural problems, etc. They should have been minding them more carefully. And the states care that this child could go wandering around Dublin, take for example, and wasn't supervised. There was nothing done to try and find this child, and this is what happened because of tusla. And again, tusla was responsible for this too, because this child should have never got out of that tusla facility to be allowed to walk around Dublin alone. A 10-year-old, I wouldn't walk around Dublin, and I'm a 22-year-old man, and I simply wouldn't do it. Simple as that. It's too dangerous, far too dangerous. So I can only imagine what a 10-year-old child, and this is what happened. And the state bears responsibility for that, because if the state looked after the children that was in the care of the state, this wouldn't have happened, first of all. And the people who were responsible for this, wherever this child was put in, should be sacked, should be nearly go to prison for incompetence. Because this is insane that this was allowed to happen. This has happened every day of the week, and it's only now that something terrible, something really terrible has happened, because it's happened time and time again, and nothing has ever been done about it. But it's absolutely disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful that this has happened. It's absolutely, because the state has failed twice. The state has failed twice to protect an innocent member of society, and it's sickening, and it's angering, and every citizen should be angry about this. Every person should be angry, should be fuming that this was allowed to happen. These two incidents, there's no word to say, because it's absolutely unforgivable what was done. And people over these departments, Neil Foley should probably be going to prison to be told hands over this, because it's unreal that this was allowed to happen. Because this child left the facility of the state care at 10 years old and was able to go around Dublin. And especially we know about last week. There was an incident involving tusla last week of two asylum seekers. Asylum seeker from Somalia killed a Ukrainian asylum seeker, a young man at 17. And again, in the care of tusla, every day of the week it seems to be something that tusla involving young children. What is happening? What's happening in tusla? What is going on? Do we need to shut it down? Do we need to arrest people that heads of tusla and put them in prison? What is the story? Because it seems like there's just children go missing first, that we don't have a clue where they are. This incident, and then last week's incident. What is happening in this country? What is going on? Are we simply lost the plot in this country that this is what's happening, and that these things are acceptable in society? They shouldn't be acceptable. And we have to do something as a society to stop this. And there needs to be radical change, and not to talk about change and promises and this and that and the other. Needs to be radical change. And the first thing that needs to happen, anybody with a deportation order, straight away, there should be no such thing from tomorrow morning. There's no such thing as voluntary leaving the state, or please can you leave the state, asking nicely. There should be, we're going to put you on a plane straight away and send you home. And that should happen straight away. That should be the first thing that should happen. Next thing should happen, if this happens again, that the child is able to get out of the care of the state, the person who's responsible for looking after that child should lose their job instantaneously. Simple as that, because that's the seriousness of this. This is a 10-year-old child. God forbid if there was a child of 5 years old or 6 years old that got out of the state's care, and God forbid what happened. I could only, I don't even want to go there, what could happen if it was a younger child too. This is it's as serious as you can get. What happened to this 10-year-old girl yesterday. This affects every citizen of society, because it could happen again, and unfortunately it could happen to any child in this country. And that's the sad reality, and that's the sad thing I have to say to you, that it can happen to any child in this country. And I only said it a few videos ago that our children nowadays are not safe in this country. The country's got a lot more dangerous. And sadly that was proven right just a few days ago I said that, and unfortunately I was proven right, and something needs to change. Radical change needs to happen now. And again, I want to just say at the end of this that the poor child that's involved, the whole country, thoughts are with this poor child at the moment, and with her family, and with her friends, and we're praying for. And this person who done this man that done this evil act, and there's no other word to describe it, evil, satanic, I would nearly go as far as saying, to do this to a child, an innocent child of 10 years old. There should be no mercy spared. There should be no mercy at all spared. And his name and every information that the state has about this fellow should be published straight away. The public has a right to know about this situation. And there needs to be talk about what we would do in this situation, because I do think, even if it was an Irish person would say the same, there's been too many things happen with children in terms of children being raped and other file stuff. There needs to be action in this state, and I nearly would suggest that we bring back corporal punishment for anybody that does this to a child. That we have to see about doing something more drastic than putting people to prison for the rest of their life, because it seems to have no difference. We need to put the fear of God into people that do these kind of things to children, because they have no place really in society. For these heinous crimes they've committed, not just against a child, against all of society. When you attack a child, you attack society. You attack the very core of society, the very foundation of Western values, Western democracy, the very foundation of what it means to be an Irish sovereign state. Because the whole identity of this country, the whole identity of any country, is based on their children, the future generation, the next generation. I don't know what else to say, because there's no words else I could say. There's nothing really else I can say, because it's heinous. It's absolutely heinous, and I only can pray for that poor girl, and that's my main thought at the moment. The poor girl that had to go through this. It's evil.